Good morning, everybody. Tuesday morning, live, happy, healthy. Hopefully everything's going well. Hopefully you're ready to get into the month of August properly, because it's already that time. And you know what they say, when August hits, then you're pretty much downhill to the rest of the year. That's how they describe it. So, I mean, listen, if you're not ready, tough. It's coming at you, like it or not. All right, good morning. So let me introduce to you this morning Mbulelo Tinta, who's been with us every morning for the last little while, and is doing the Cliff Central Sports Show, which he hosts on YouTube. You need to go and sign up for that if you haven't already. There's lots of exciting stuff happening there, and F1 and rugby, among other things, on the MKT show today. Don't miss that. Then also Lebang Kgosana, who joins us this morning for the second time due to popular demand. She's back, another return champion. Made it to the show this morning. And Lebang, it's nice to see you again. People loved you last time, so they demanded that you make a return.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I had an absolute blast. So kudos to all the people that want to be back. You guys have good taste. And so do you, Gareth. So let's have fun, man.
I just do what the people demand. That's all. I have no say in any of this. The people demand things, and then I just have to deliver. That's how it works.
Oh, a hero.
That's what presidents apparently should do as well. So
apparently, but how many of them in the world do? How many of them in the world think they know better than their people? That's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, shout out to Angela Merkel. The greatest reign in recent European history has come to an end. I didn't hear you say anything about physics grad and chemistry PhD Angela Merkel. The reign is over.
Have they finally managed to get her out of government?
Competent people know when to leave. That's actually a sign of intelligence. Yeah.
Okay, so she resigned.
Yeah, I've done a bit.
I'm gonna miss all those sexy pantsuits. I mean, she always looked so great in those boxy clothes. She always looked so fantastic, and she was always really good at her job. She was one of those things. You loved her, huh? You were. That's your kind of woman. That.
Chemistry grad, of course.
Type.
Yeah, type. Yeah.
Chemistry grad. What more needs to be said?
It's like, when Boris Johnson eventually goes, people go, thank God, because the hair was it's too much of a distraction. There's no way no one should have hair like that. No one should be that disheveled and disorganized. Did you see that video that was going around of him at some commemoration or some police memorial or something? And he's trying to open an umbrella. I'm sure you've seen it. It's just the most embarrassing video you've ever seen, because you could see him going, I know what to do with an umbrella. And then he tries to open it, and then it goes completely like, you know how an umbrella goes almost upside down. And then he tries to pull it back from there. And then he passes it to someone, and she doesn't want it because he realizes there's a woman without an umbrella. I mean, it's English gentlemanliness mixed up with English buffoonery, mixed up with probably the world's least coordinated, most messy human being that has ever lived. He's just unbelievable. He's so English. Like, if you had to distill the English into one person, it would be him, not Prince Charles. It's like, it's him. He's about as English as they come.
Have you seen Jeeves and Worcester?
He does look a bit greasy. What's that, Mbulelo?
Have you seen Jeeves and Worcester before? It's some of the better British comedy to ever come out. Stephen Fry and what's the doctor guy?
Hugh Laurie.
Hugh Laurie. So it was their first real breakout project after Blackadder. So Jeeves and Worcester, and he reminds me of Hugh Laurie's character in that. Just never had to work a day in his life. Somehow got into Oxford because of his grandfather, who's just because he comes from one of those legacy families, and he's never done anything. Can't even open an umbrella. Well, what a life! And he made it to president.
Well, he is
prime minister.
He's like most Englishmen of that kind of background. They didn't really have to prove themselves except to their good old mates, and if we were at school together, then that's enough for me. Boris is terrific. How do you know he's terrific? I know he's terrific because we used to play cricket. Yeah, we used to play cricket together. And his father and my father and his father, his grandfather and my great grandfather were all very good chummies, and we all went down to Cows together, And then we'd race at Henley, and we'd sometimes go along and watch, Goodwood. Those were all the
And
things
the horses.
The horses. We absolutely loved a little bit of Ascot. My favorite thing to do. Always did like a little top hat and tails. That's the kind of thing they would do. So, I mean, it's almost the end of a generation, because I don't think that there are going to be very many Boris Johnsons after this. But it is funny to watch him. He's just a bumbling, stumbling fool. I mean, very.
So, at the high school he went to, right, in one of the dining halls, there is the most obscene, like life-size poster of him. Especially when I was there, he was kind of starting to head towards Mayor of London, and it is the most ridiculous, because he looks. Some people like Trump and him, you can't actually make a caricature of them, because they are a walking.
They're already
caricature,
ridiculous.
Yeah, real life caricatures.
Yeah, so the picture actually makes him look too regal. But it is a ridiculous picture, but because he's so ridiculous, and it's a ridiculous picture, but it's just Boris.
It just sounds like a bunch of ridiculousness occurring in this dining hall right now. Is it still up there? Are people being forced to eat and look at it at the same time?
I don't know. I left school a long time ago.
I don't know how they keep their food down. Steph says the Wally with the brolly. Carl is so on your page in Mbulelo. That Angela Merkel, her efficiency is erection-inducing. I envy that level of proficiency. Yeah.
Well said, Carl.
Oh my God. Johnson, Biden, Macron, Morrison, Squirrel, all proof that there is no actual choice in modern democracy, says Corona's boring. Yeah, I'm afraid. And then Tracy describes him as, this is Boris, as the bastard son of Winston Churchill and Hugh Grant.
Oh, not Hugh Grant.
Poor Hugh Grant. I don't know if he needs to be dragged into that.
Like, he just got thrown in there catching a stray bullet. Shame, man.
So, Lebang, what's happening with you?
Oh, guys, I'm chilling. I had an incredibly long day yesterday. I was told I've got a 2-hour meeting, which turned into a 4 or 5 hour training. And then I got a call from my brow lady, of whom she did. Yes, right? Like up there in like top 5 most important people in my life. So my brow lady did microblading on me like a couple of months ago. It's basically like doing a tattoo on your eyebrows, because as a busy young woman who's changing the world, I don't have time to wake up every morning and just sit there and physically do my brows every morning. So I went and did microblading. This was a while ago. So yesterday she hits me up and she's like, hey, you're due for a touch-up. I'm like, fabulous. When's the date? She's like, it's this Wednesday. I'm like, oh, not going to make it for whatever reason. She's like, that's fine. You can change the date, but I'm going to charge you. I'm like, you're going to charge me
just to move
what?
it? So she calls you. Hold on a second. She calls you to arrange the touch-up.
To remind me.
Yeah, she's already chosen Wednesday without you knowing that Wednesday was the day, right? She didn't check with you, does Wednesday suit you? Then you say, no, Wednesday doesn't suit me, and now it's your fault and you have to pay for that to be moved.
Exactly. And I haven't spoken to her since I did the initial procedure, which was 3 months ago. So give me like an opportunity to decide what works for me. So I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, because I like her. She's great. But now she's making me pay because I can't come when she's deciding for me to come. And I don't know what to do. If I should ditch her and find someone else, or if I should speak to her about how I feel.
Now move on. You got to move on to somebody else, because
I mean,
that's
my brows, baby. It's my brows.
Yeah, but I don't think, like, you can pull rank if you are like the best in South Africa at that kind of, and there are people who are brilliant at it, right? Like, I know this one girl she's got like 10 people who work for her and do this, and she started on her own. It was just her.
Yeah.
And that's proof that, and those are the real small business entrepreneurs, because what they do is they learn the skill themselves. Then they find other people, or they tell their friends, hey, listen, do you want a job? Because their friends are like, oh, I've got nothing to do. They can tell who's serious about it and who isn't. Then they train them, and then they employ them, and they run this like syndicate of microblading or whatever it is that they do. Now, the cool thing about those people is that they're, first of all, passing on a skill that's necessary. Second of all, they're making good money. Third of all, they can develop a huge reputation for themselves, again, thanks to social media. And if their clients, if they have 1 or 2 really important clients, they can make a serious name for themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Like if a lot of people want to do microblading, like just to do like the basic one is like 1,500. That's like entry level. So you can imagine the real
that's good
top
money.
dollar one. That's really good money if you get like more than 3 clients a day. So I don't know what to say to this lady, man. I'm just like, hey, you know
How
what?
long? How long are you sitting there for that 1.5?
Literally 2 hours of a bit of pain. You know, she applies the anesthesia or whatever, and then she just like
Mm,
starts to do the tattoo vibe. And because I'm used to tattoos and that kind of pain, for me it's like chilled vibes. But a lot of her clientele are not me. It's like a lot older
mm,
women who would generally not be interested in beauty and that kind of thing. So
right.
that's her little niche. So I'm starting to wonder if she like really is just a bit of a crook and just starting to play with people's emotions, like because not to disrespect her clientele, but as I'm saying, a lot of them are, you know, like my mother's age, for example, they don't necessarily know a lot about business 101, etc. So if she says to them, hey, if you can't make it today, you're gonna have to pay, you know, for me to whatever, they'll probably do it. And I'm just like, that's so messy, man. That's so messy. So that's how I'm doing today, Gareth.
Well, if she's the best and she's got this incredibly large clientele and she gets to call the shots, then you've just got to make a plan and do what she wants, right? I mean, what is she going to
Absolutely.
charge? What's she going to charge you for canceling if she charges 1,500 for the appointment?
I didn't even ask her. I was just so uninterested. I was just like, okay. I literally just said, okay. I don't want to know.
Sure.
The touch up itself is 800. And I'm just like, in the middle of a panorama. It's the middle of a pandemic, lady. But I'll see. I'll see how I feel. I'll see.
You know, it's weird how some people are like married to their hairdresser or their whoever it is, the person who does their skin treatment, or the person who does their like manicure or pedicure. And I mean, especially women, they get very attached and they feel terrible if they move on.
It's a relationship.
It is a relationship, but the fact is also, like, these people are service providers, and if you find someone who, let's say they're just pure convenience, like you have no issue with that person at all, they might be terrific. I mean, I've had people who've cut my hair before and I thought, wow, they're amazing, and I get on with them like a house on fire. But then it turns out that it's just quicker and easier to go to the person down the road, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But because, you know, we kind of use that time to connect with these people, they know about our lives, we share stories with them. We don't end up going to that specific salon for our hair. That's just the plus. We're going to offload. It's a therapeutic experiment, whether you want to believe it or not. And that's I believe why we go to the same dentist and the same doctor and the same hairdresser. Convenience, I get it. But for many of us, it's more of a, oh, thank God, now I can tell you how shitty my life is. And they'll listen. Why? Because it's a service, as you're saying. It doesn't matter what you're saying. They're just going to say, really? Oh, no. Wow. How could he? For 2 hours, and you leave feeling better about yourself, and you happen to look better, or whatever the case is. But it's the same reason why, Gareth, you know, some of your listeners left. Yeah?
No. It sounds to me a hell of a lot like a friend. Like this is a person who a lot of people have to pay for someone to have to listen to their bullshit, and some people really have a boring story to tell and not particularly interesting to listen to. And I think that those people, they need these relationships that you're talking about. And the poor old hairdresser or the person who does the nails or whatever it is, that person, they realize like, oh, part of this job is I have to talk to that idiot again today for 2 hours, but they'll never say it.
I don't doubt that at all. At all.
Part
Imagine
of the job, right?
to sit there, you're doing your job, and every hour the same kind of person is just coming in, and you have to just act interested, because the more interested you act, the higher the chances of a return customer.
Well, listen to this. There are lots of comments here that are coming up. First of all, somebody says here that she should include the touch-up in the original cost. How's this? This is Tracy. She says she needs to be schooled in business ethics. Also, if you school her, she should cock it up. She could cock it up. You're in a real tough spot. Yeah, because that's the other point is, if you piss off your hairdresser or the person your dentist or someone, they could, if they were really malicious, they could like knock out a tooth by mistake or cut a huge hole in your hair, or, you know, make your one eyebrow go like this, your other eyebrow go like that. You got to be careful about
It's a risk. It's a risk.
That's right.
And the problem is there aren't like 15 in the area you live in. The last thing you want to be doing is driving across town to sit down for 2 hours, you know? So in your
And have
area,
to
there's
start
probably 2 or
again.
3. Oh, well, it's a nightmare.
Exactly.
It sounds like
You know, I'm not the world's most empathetic or sensitive or compassionate person, but Errol says, Gareth, thank you for your kind words last week for my brother who passed away. He was one of the first to like and subscribe the channel. It's the only reason I gave you my condolences, Errol. He used to listen to us, and people who listen to this show, I will always reserve the larger part of my sympathies for if something goes wrong in their lives. The people who don't listen to the show, I could care less. They could be dropping like flies, and it wouldn't bother me at all. But your brother, if he listened, he liked and subscribed, then we're sad that he's not here anymore. Those are the most important people in the world to me. The rest of them, they could be falling down in the street. The street could be piled high with the rest of them, and I wouldn't care. That's the truth.
He's not even lying. He's not.
No. So Kerry says, on behalf of blonde people, you will travel for days when you find a hairdresser that is brilliant with blonde hair. Yeah, well, you know what, Kerry? I mean, as a guy, it really doesn't matter to me. It's not as important. I can understand though for a girl, because especially if you are doing things with the color of your hair, you got to find someone who knows what they're doing. Otherwise, you'll look cheap and nasty. So I understand. If you found someone who looks great, who makes you look great, you got to stick with them. Gavin says, check with your cuck, Felicia. I'm sure there's plenty more peeps out there looking for business. Gavin's on your side. So don't feel bad. Gavin's saying to you, Lebang, go for it. Find someone new. I will pay the hairdresser extra, says Hadmin, not to talk to me. Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely... there's nothing worse. I mean, I don't do the hairdresser thing.
Tell
like
us
the guy
about your hairdressing experience.
Yeah, what do you do, Mbulelo? I mean, that's interesting. Do you even have to go, or do you just do it yourself?
The process of hairdressing.
The barber comes to my house, cuts my hair, get the hell out of here. I don't want to sit down at a barber where there's people telling annoying stories. So I have like Uber style. Come to my house, cut my hair, and then don't let the door hit you on the way out. But the worst... Listen, the worst part of my entire life probably is the chatty person when I'm shopping, like the cashier who wants to chat. I don't want to talk to you. Like, we're in a service provider situation.
Oh, gosh, you are horrible.
Just process that stuff. I'm standing over here, and then
you are
why?
I mean, how anyone has ever wanted to be with you or sleep with you or talk to you is beyond me, Mbulelo, because it sounds like such an effort for you to actually be human.
And be kind. Like, it costs you nothing just to be like, hi, cashier lady with, very terrible eyebrows and probably very tired from a long day. How are you today? No, I don't want 10 rand. I want 5 rand. It's not going to hurt you to just be kind. You just want to be like an ice cold.
No. Hi, do you have a what card? No, I don't. Thank you. We are done here. You're ringing something up. Thank you very much. I am gone. What are we doing? What am I here to do? Upgrade my friendship circle? Like, and that's not to say...
Listen, Lebang is right. Like, sometimes kindness or a little bit of, you just make a small effort with somebody. What is it costing you? Zero. Exactly. A little bit of your patience, your time. What are you going to do anyway? You're not going anywhere.
But why is it unkind to just say, hi, how are you? Do you have a card? No. Perform your service. Take my bags and leave.
Unkind. We're not saying that's unkind. We're saying it'll cost you nothing to just be that little bit kind and not get irritated when she wants to be kind to you.
No. Sorry. See, this is where we head with people. Is like everyone should be allowed to get into my circle. No. Sorry. If I want to talk to you, I'll talk to you. And because I don't ever want to complain about my mental health and this person came into my life and
But
like I'll stop you there.
Listen. Dogozo says the cashiers in KZN talk to each other while they're helping you. I'm with Mbulelo.
It's the worst. It's the worst.
Yes.
And then they make a mistake.
So yesterday I went and did my, I'm not a complicated grocery guy. I go like maximum once a week, and then what I'll do is I'll buy those things that last a week. So I don't do like a big shopping experience. If I fill half a trolley, it's a lot. Anyway, so then I'll go to the counter like I did yesterday, And I'm friendly. I'm like, hi, how you doing? No, I don't have a card. Yes, I'll need some bags, please. And then I'll smile and, look her in the eye and all that stuff, or a him if it's a him. And, it's you get on with it. But this woman was busy talking to the woman who was packing the bags. And they were not, I might as well not have existed. But it's fine. It's still fine. Like, what does it cost? It's not, I don't care. I'm not looking for my best friend. I'm just going to be nice. And if it happens to make someone else's day a little bit better, that I was nice, then great. Then I've achieved something. Just move on. It's not important enough. Get upset. Imagine being one of those.
And you still got your groceries, right?
Right. And imagine being one
of
those
people. In the bags.
Exactly. Imagine being one of those people who's upset that the cashier didn't give you enough attention.
Yeah. No, that would be a different world.
That's really sad.
Dylan says, can we please talk about the price of a men's haircut? 15 minutes at a max can start at 180 Rand.
Yeah.
Now, are you saying, Dylan, that is too much? Or are you saying that is too little? Because
I think,
what do you get for 180 Rand these days? And a haircut lasts you at least 3 or 4 weeks. Right?
Like, it depends what that haircut comes with. Are you getting a massage? Is it a hot towel that, is going to be on your neck throughout? Is it like, what comes with it? Because 180 sounds like a bit much for a bit of a zip, 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 in my opinion. I mean, like, there was a time where haircuts were like $50.
I don't think.
Listen, there are bad haircuts. Even like for me, if a guy doesn't line me up, so now I've got my guy. Yeah. It's worth paying extra, like you said, for 3 weeks of not having your yeah.
But hang on, because again, 180 Rand. There's not a lot you can buy for 180 Rand. I mean, if you are making a meal tonight, and it's for you and one other person, you're easily in 180 Rand if you're going to make an interesting meal. I mean, there's some cheap versions of that you can do for, 30, 40 Rand, but 180 Rand, and especially if you go out, 180 Rand for you on your own is a lot. So that's one night. A haircut you're going to use for a good couple of weeks. That's going to make your life easier, and you're going to hopefully look a whole lot better too. So I don't think that's too much. 180. What does an average woman's haircut cost? And especially, black women, my God, they have to sit there for hours if they're doing the braids or the weaves or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
That can take like a whole day, and that can be a couple of $1,000 Rand, right?
Definitely. I mean, the last time I set foot in a salon, and I've had dreads, like I've had locks my whole life, basically. I used to pay an average of like $800, and this is when I was still in high school. So it's probably gotten a lot more expensive. And an average weave, a good weave, will cost you maybe like $3 grand, and that's for like entry level. But that's also because, for us as women, beauty and hair care, it's key, it's important. We want to look and feel beautiful more than most guys. Most guys can just wake up and just shoo when they're done. Only now we're seeing that males are taking grooming seriously. So some guys are willing to view, a haircut as an investment and say, ooh, this haircut will last me 3 weeks. I'm willing to part ways with this 180.
Sure.
Whereas I know a lot of guys that are like 180, there's absolutely no way. And they'll just, pay that guy on the side of the road for $20 and still get away with a good haircut. Maybe not the best. There'll be no hot towel and no massage, but still a good haircut nonetheless. So women's hair, it's a huge, huge business. It's crazy. It's been like that for years.
Well, Michael says, that is why giving out 350 Rand to South Africans is an insult from
good point.
Social welfare. Yeah.
Good point.
Kerry says, come to Cape Town because it's 360 Rand for a 4-year-old's haircut at a barber. 4-year-old. Yes.
Sorry, what's my 4-year-old doing with that much expensive? What? Sorry, what was that? No.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Now, this is something that Ben, who's often on the show, says. Pakistani haircut for men, only $60. They don't understand English, so it's in and out. That's the way you got to go, Mbulelo. That sounds like your
there you go.
No, I got my guy now. He's efficient. He doesn't talk, cuts my hair, gets the hell out of there. Fantastic. Don't.
Salome says, Mbulelo, I recommend online grocery shopping. Changed my life. All the fun, none of the interaction.
Problem is, I'm a bit of a workaholic. I'm never home. So when I need the shopping to be delivered, you know what I mean?
You know, you can place a recurring order. Eh? You know, you can do that.
Yeah, and here's the issue. Twice now I've had items missing. You know what I mean? And then now what do I do? Like now it's another investment of like an hour, another day. So I've yeah, Salome, that's a good suggestion. I've done the opportunity cost through the previous actions of a certain retailer, and now I'm trapped in having to go and walk and hear about a lady's emotions that I don't want to hear about while I try and get my grapes.
Put in your headphones so that it
now,
seems like
okay. You see now you see what you're saying now. That's rude. Like if I'm visually showing you with like, okay, if we could just do hi, shopping, buy. That's not rude. If I have my headphones, like, isn't that not an insult? Like your humanity doesn't matter.
No, not at all. I think it's gonna save you having to pretend like you like being there, because then for sure you're doing something interesting. You must be listening to a really hot song if you're not even gonna try. They won't even waste their time trying to interact with you. So I'm helping them because you clearly aren't about that life.
Actually, so you were projecting earlier because you see, I'm not rude. You're the rude one. Headphones in is like just that is like your humanity doesn't matter. You like I'm like, hi, shopping. Look down, carry on, and you're just earphones in. I'm way too good to be here anyway.
Yeah. You know, what if it's the other way around? What if that hairdresser who Mbulelo thinks just wants to talk to him is actually thinking, oh God, here comes this guy who just wants to talk the whole time. And the two of you haven't been honest with each other, and both of you are laboring under the misapprehension that the other one is the one who wants to talk, when neither of you do. Maybe the hairdresser's going, oh, I just want to shut up. I don't want to talk to this moron. But, you know, he sits there like a lummox, and then he looks at me, and I'm expected to say something. It's unreal.
Well, I've always thought of money as portable power. So for me, it is a bit of an ego trip. It's like, I'm paying you for this 15 minutes. Do what the emperor says. And the emperor doesn't want to talk. You know?
What a superiority complex.
I'm so curious about like your girlfriends and like the people that are very close to in your life. But that conversation we can definitely have another day.
Oxy Head says, I pay my hairdresser with weed. He's happy, I'm happy. Well, okay.
Nice.
These days, hey, listen, if you don't have to involve SARS and you don't have to involve any actual exchange in currency, go for it. I say that's the way to do things. Yeah. Harmin says, wow, color, cut, and dry, easily 3,000 Rand, 3,100 if they don't talk to me. Yes.
Absolutely.
I like that. 3,000 Rand. Who are these people? How often do you do this? Is dry? What is it called? Color, cut, and dry. Is that like every 3 weeks, every month? How often do you do it?
Monthly. I would think it's like monthly. And a very important thing that Hermine said there, 3.1 if they don't talk to me. If you talk to these people and get friendly with them, and the more you open up and they open up back, chances are you can get a discount at any given time just because they like you. They like you so much because you came in and blabbed and blabbed and blabbed. You can get $200 off. And the more you go, like, you guys are building a family of like people like-minded that just go in there and gossip all day. It's just what it is. And yeah, there's some benefits to talking and talking and talking.
So look at what you've done. You told us about your brows, and we've spent like half an hour talking about hairdressers and people in the beauty service provision business and all of that stuff. So look what you've done. We've got JJ Cornish coming on to join us in just a short while. He'll be telling us in our update on Africanalysis what is happening in Tunisia, which is a country that I think we need to pay some attention to. You know, very often we forget that, and in fact, so do the North Africans. They forget that they're part of the rest of Africa, and we forget that they're part of Africa. And they play an important role. They carry quite a lot of weight. They're definitely one of the major kind of subsections of what we think of when we think of Africa. And the North Africans are a very different bunch of people with some very different politics, some very different goings on. They're also dealing with COVID in a different way to the way we are. So we'll speak about Tunisia in a moment or two with JJ Cornish. We check in with him bi-monthly, and that is brought to you by the Johannesburg Business School. So don't miss JJ Cornish coming up in a short while. That's always good fun. And later on, I've got a brand new interview for you. Someone called Chris Wyatt. Now, you've actually got to listen to this because I spoke to Chris Wyatt last week, and he's an American. He's in the US at the moment. He's got some really interesting ideas about what's going on in South African politics. He's controversial as hell. So you're going to agree with some of the things he says. You're going to disagree with some of the things he says. He has been in the U.S. Army. He's a retired colonel. He's served on a number of tours of duty. He knows South Africa very well. He's lived here for a short time. He knows the politics better than many of the outside people that we speak to. And he's got a fairly, interesting and nuanced and objective point of view. We tend to get very touchy and sorry.
COVID. Thoughts and prayers. COVID. The COVID has got you. Oh,
it's hitting once again. Sorry.
Lord.
The countdown clock has started. I'm finished now.
Another stat. Another stat.
Another number on the COVID update. Sorry, it had to be you.
Another Fauci figure.
So before I die, let me finish telling you about Chris Wyatt. So he says things about South Africa that maybe we are too close to say. You know how sometimes it takes someone from the outside to look at you as a country and say, this is what you've got going on. This is what's right. This is what's wrong. I think you'll find it interesting. I spoke to him for about an hour, and that is on today from 8 o'clock. And he'll be up under Gareth's guests on all our podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, on whichever podcast platform for you to listen to from 8 o'clock this morning. So go along and check that out and tell us what you think. And leave your comments also for this morning if you want to be on the show live, like so many other people. What you need to do is like and subscribe. And now all these people saying it was very nice to meet you, Gareth. God bless you as you go to your grave with coronavirus. Thank you, everybody. I have one sneeze and people are starting to assume that I'm going to be dead.
That was like a 3-in-1 sneeze.
Yeah. Do not go gently into the night, sweet prince.
No,
rage.
The dying life. Yeah. Thank you very much. Where's that from again?
What's the poem called? Is it? I don't know if it's Hemingway or whatever. So,
not death be not proud.
Death be not proud. Yeah,
be not proud.
Yeah, it's one of these. Yeah. Anyway,
look at us. Look at how literary we are being this morning.
Hey, culture. I think I just watch rugby. I'm not just a rugby actor.
Wow. I didn't expect this morning to go in that direction. Okay, let's look at some headlines quickly before we get to JJ and see what's happening in the world around us. Very important that we pay attention. So the warring Cape taxi associations have shared a newfound plan after weeks of violence. Now, I know people in South Africa are always astonished by the taxi industry. There are a couple of things that should give you pause to consider that the taxi industry is a lot more complex than the taxi driver that you encounter on a weekly or daily basis in Johannesburg. And I say that because these are the only people who gave the middle finger to government's lockdown last year. They said, not us. You can make rules, but you're not going to be able to enforce them with us. They basically said to government, get screwed. And they're the only business sector that had the balls to do that. People talk about white monopoly capital and about mining and about big business in South Africa and how it's, big retail or big pharma or what. None of those people stood up to government. The taxi associations did. So in the Western Cape, the warring taxi associations, the Cape Amalgamated Taxi Association, which is called CATA, and the Congress of Democratic Taxi Associations, CODETA. I know, I love this. It's like political associations. They've apologized for holding commuters to ransom for the past few weeks. That's quite a big move. They don't ever apologize, right?
Cowboys. They're cowboys.
So anyway, they met with Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula and Transport and Public Works MEC Dalen Mitchell at the Protea Fire and Ice Hotel to announce developments regarding taxi violence. And they said the past few weeks have been difficult. People have lost confidence in them. They said, we cannot bring back the lives of the people that have been lost. We will work hard on improving ourselves, they said. And Balula said the last few weeks have been horrible. They've been working closely with the Western Cape government to resolve the conflict in the province. He said discussions with the two taxi associations, they had reached agreement and therefore decided to implement measures with immediate effect. And this is very good news. All routes will be monitored and action will be taken against associations and individual operating license holders who are in breach of the instructions. So they're going to get back to work this week. That is very, very good. This is the only time that politicians prove they're useful, and I'm loath to say that about Fikile Mbalula, because I think he's mostly a moron. But let's be fair. Like this guy, if he got this right as transport minister, that is a big and a progressive and a useful move in the right direction. So Fikile, finally, you've done something useful after all this time we've been paying you a salary. But well done. All right. So that's the first thing you need to know this morning. There are a couple other things. Do you want to hear about Medupi power plant? Because they say after 14 years, it's finally complete. Do you want to hear about it?
Well,
I'm curious. I don't know much about power plants, but how long should it generally take for a power plant to be complete? Is it generally 14 years, or is it just that South Africa is?
No.
It can't be 14 years, right?
No, it should not be. It really should.
Dubai put 2 up in 6 months, and that I know because I had a family member involved. Two up in 6 months.
You see,
Hectic.
I think it should take less than a year if you know what you're doing, and also if there aren't people getting their share of the pie who shouldn't be getting their share of the pie, and the costs keep on going up. So Medupi finally, after 14 years of construction, they've announced that the project has finally been completed. That's Eskom. Parastatal said this was an important step when it came to limiting the wastage of funds and keeping the lights on in the country. So what they've said is that this Medupi should last 50 years and produce reliable power for 50 years. So there we go. They've checked the safety and legal requirements.
Do we believe? Like, I don't know if I believe anything these people say anymore. Like, I'll be honest.
I'm with you.
Like
you said it.
50 years, sure, we'll see. I mean,
but here's the worst part. They're gonna get there, shake hands, make sure that the national flag is up. Yeah, no, we have delivered on the needs of all of the South Africans. Our constituents have worked for this day. Nelson Mandela, when he first spoke, Governor Mbeki, when he first spoke, this was the South Africa, a light bulb in every bedroom, in every village, in every house, for every grandmother.
Literally copy paste the speech that they said 24 years ago or whenever. So that's all that's happening. They'll cut the red ribbon, whatever the case is. And then like 2-3 weeks later, I don't know if that's going to be the case. And the sad thing is those who are living below the poverty line are going to be hit the most. So,
and as usual.
Well said. And I think on a serious note, my British mates call it the postman syndrome, is you should never thank the postman for delivering the post. Like, I don't want South Africans to be put in a position now where we do thank you, Eskom. No. You're supposed to do this.
To be doing that, Eskom.
Yeah.
The whole reason you exist.
Yeah.
So there's one last story I want to get to before JJ, and this is to do with the Olympic transgender athlete Laurel Hubbard, who unfortunately didn't have the snatch part of the weightlifting, right? I mean, you could see the snatches where she really fucked it up. Take a look here quickly. This is the actual footage from the Olympics, and you can see where she missed the ball. Oh no, what a pity. So there we go.
Look, man,
you couldn't make those headlines up if you tried. But there we go. So New Zealand hopeful just she crashes out of this. The snatch was the problem. Who knew? And obviously transgender activists all over the world very, very upset about that. But well done to Laurel Hubbard for at least making it this far in the Olympics, and possibly ruining it for some girls who've been training their whole life to do this, and then she comes in as a much, much older man and takes their place. But what the hell?
Gareth,
who said that?
Let's be kinder to her, considering like the comeback game. If Laurel started her career at like the age of 21, left, came back. I mean, how old is Laurel now? 43. That is like some real I'm not giving up on my dreams type attitude.
Yeah. No, Laurel didn't give up on her dreams. She entered as a man years before, but didn't even make the cut, and then decided to enter as a woman. And guess what? She pushed out some women, and she got in ahead of them. And look at her. So who knows? I mean, well done. This is a great victory for female athletics. It's terrific.
And also, like, let's also not go down too far the path of like you're a real warrior from nothing. Her father used to be the mayor of Auckland, and the Hubbard food group is New Zealand's biggest food group that was just bought up. So we're also not talking about a marginalized citizen here. Please, let's not go down that road.
And let's not talk about male privilege or about any other kind of privilege at this point. Does anyone know when Laurel lost her Hardy? I think that's obviously a reference to the cartoon.
Oh, my Lord.
Sorry. That's a reference to the cartoon. These kinds of comments are completely tasteless, and I do want to put an end to them right now. We have more important things. So thank you. And listen, I mean, for all it's worth, here from South Africa, we love our New Zealanders. They're our brothers in arms in rugby. We love to see them succeed, don't we? So, Laurel, great to see you succeed too. Let's turn our attention now to Africa Analysis, which is one of my favorite parts of the week. We get to check in with JJ Cornish, Jean-Jacques Cornish, who is ready to tell us about Tunisia this morning. So, Jean-Jacques, bonjour. How are you?
Bonjour. I'm immensely well. When did you say Lauren made the cut? Okay.
More of those horrible, tasteless jokes.
Well, I didn't say it. You did. I just want to say at the outset that Mbulelo, I want my Dylan Thomas, I got snot flying with him T-shirt back. All right? If you don't know that Go Gently Into the Sweet Night was Dylan Thomas for his daddy. His daddy was about to buy the farm, and Dylan wrote this beautiful poem. But Dylan Thomas's best line was, he was a man much the worse for drink, came to the door of an aristocratic friend, knocked on it, wishing for more drink, obviously. The man opened the door and said, Dylan, I'm very sorry. I can't let you in. I'm entertaining. And Dylan said, not very.
Shout out Dylan Scott.
That's amazing. All right. That's probably the best story I've heard in about 3 weeks. That's fantastic, JJ. Thank you. Tell us about Tunisia, because as I mentioned in the introduction a little earlier on, or rather when I was telling people we would be joined by you this morning, Tunisia is a funny place because it's in that group of North African countries who sometimes consider themselves part of the rest of Africa, and sometimes very conveniently, when it suits them, they're not part of Africa. You know, they speak Arabic in that part of the world, not French and English like the rest of the continent, or many other languages. They don't consider themselves part of the Francophone or Anglophone areas of influence. They're also not really like the rest of Sub-Saharan Africa in many ways, because we're separated from them by this huge big desert. And their politics seem more concerned with the affairs of Europe or the Middle East than they often do with the rest of Africa. Am I wrong?
Absolutely, 100% correct. Tunisia, 11.5 million people, tiny little country. It's not in, they have in the Arab world, when you look at the north of Africa, the Mashrek, which is what we would call Mpumalanga, where the sun rises, and then the Maghreb, where the sun sets. Now, Tunisia is in the middle. It's in a very rough neighborhood in between, sandwiched in between Libya and Algeria, between the Mashrek and the Maghreb. It's a fantastically interesting little country. They are Arabic when they want to be. They are African when they want to be. And they even claim to be, Mediterranean, but they say they're probably European. The island of Lampedusa, the migrant beset island of Lampedusa, is close to Tunisia than it is to Italy. From Carthage in the north of Tunisia, you can see Sicily, so you can see Europe from Tunisia. Fantastically interesting little country. Punch above their weight. That is something we have to learn. Now, under the old president, the guy who was Ben Ali, who was overthrown in the Arab Spring, he wanted a bridge between Africa North and Africa South. They the most northerly, we the most southerly. And he wanted this bridge. And Nelson Mandela made one of his first foreign trips to Tunisia as president. It was the African Union summit there. And he then said, well, okay, we've got to do this, said Ben Ali, said to his businessmen, we're going to have to create business opportunities and make this business link between North and South. the ambassador from Tunisia, a good friend of mine, a very nice man actually, came to me and said, I don't know what to do. The businessmen have come and said the president has commanded that we do business with South Africa. We've all written to every South African we know, and none of them have come back. Well, the South Africans were more circumspect. You know, no president can tell you who to do business with. The dollar rules, and in this case, the dinars rule. And they hadn't come back, and the ambassador felt that he was in trouble, but the poor, sweaty businessmen thought they were in real trouble because they couldn't obey the president's command. Now, Tunisia, its strategic importance is underlined by the Phoenicians, and then the Romans, then the Ottomans, then the Arabs, and then finally the French. They have Carthage, the Roman city in Tunisia, which is the biggest Roman city in Africa. And the French ruled it from the late 1800s until 1956, when Habib Bourguiba took over. And he actually made the country quite secular. Now, I've been caught in Algeria during Ramadan, and there was Ben Ali making a speech at Ramadan, taking a bottle and drinking from the bottle of water, which of course you shouldn't be doing in the day. But this was the typical of him. The woman not wearing hijab in Tunisia is quite commonplace, and he gave the vote to women. But then, sadly, he lost his marbles, and he was ousted in what was effectively a palace coup in about 86, and by Ben Ali, who turned Tunisia into this incredible police state. You know, there was a policeman on a motorbike at every exit to the motorway. And I was driving over a visit to Tunisia many times, and I said to my host, but, I mean, how? And a policeman on every bus, and a policeman in every train carriage. And I said, well, this is an absolute police state, isn't it? And the guy said with pride, yes, it is. They thought it was fantastic. Keeping order and comparing it to what was happening in Libya and Algeria. Well, maybe not a bad thing, huh?
No, you say that the guy lost his marbles. What actually happened there? I mean, that's too good a story to just gloss over like that. Before Ben Ali, he lost his mind. What happened?
Well, I would think it's a little bit of age and other things creeping in. None of you young buggers at the other end of this microphone would understand what I'm talking about, but it's going to happen to you too. You remember? You very kindly don't remember when I had the death toll in hundreds of millions and blamed it on Donald Trump. Thank you for that. No, but I think it was a little bit of dementia and so on. So he's still considered very highly. And there's Habib Bourguiba Avenue, one of the main avenues in Tunis, the capital. So then comes Arab Spring, and they obviously enjoy old people because then Tunisia winning the Nobel Peace Prize. The way they had democratized. And their president, Beji Caid Essebsi, he died in July 19. He was in July 29. He was over 90 years old. So he too was, away with the fairies to some extent, as the Irish like to say. And then in that, I observed that election where the new president, Kais Saied, again, no threat to Michael Jackson or any of the other young entertainers. He's a former judge, and he's also a former law professor, and he speaks in this classical Arabic. So he's a distant figure in a way, but he hasn't got the majority party in parliament, Ennahda, which is, they like to refer themselves as moderate Islamist party. They're in charge, and he's had to put in a prime minister from the previous outgoing government. Well, they've done badly on COVID. They've had nearly 500,000 cases, and they've got more than 20,000 deaths. And last week, Kais Saied sacked the prime minister and the defense minister and froze parliament. Well, I mean, that's caused a huge constitutional crisis. A lot of the people standing for him and went to the streets for him, a lot of people went against. And they've had Arabic or North African members or leaders meeting to talk about what to do in this country, because interestingly, it's a small country. It depends on agriculture, which is very good. They will tell you, the Tunisians, that they determined the proper distance for olive trees to be planted apart, and the rest of the world followed.
That's
something
very, well, that's very handy.
Something my guy told me as he pointed to these enormous olive groves. And then tourism is massive, massive, massive. And of course, they had these tourist attacks in 2015 that killed something like, 60 people, mostly foreigners. And that absolutely wrecked their tourism industry, on which they depend hugely. Now, Tunisia is wealthier than Libya, wealthier than oil-rich Libya, wealthier than, in terms of GDP per capita, and wealthier than Algeria. And so that's a very big concern. And right now, when I went there for the last time in 2019, I went twice for elections, parliamentary and then presidential and then parliamentary. You go into the shops, and I mean, they've got sales, and they're trying desperately to get the economy going again, but they're battling enormously. But there we have this country at the moment in the state of crisis, with the rest of the North African Arab world looking on, and this very distant, very academic, classical president saying, "What? When he's frozen his parliament." Once again, the democracy of Tunisia is under threat.
JJ,
Yes?
I mean, I think of what you're talking about here with Tunisia, and I think about Rwanda or Paul Kagame, and I think that sometimes we have these incredibly effective and efficient and quite autocratic rulers, and then we have these really badly run democracies. And I can understand why some people go, maybe autocracy is a better option for us in some countries, because if you're the kind of person who, like your tour guide, was proud of the fact that he lives in a police state, we tend to apply our rules to all these countries. And maybe some of the people in them would rather have an autocrat, and some of these autocrats maybe do a better job. And I mean, it's horrible to say, it's sacrilege to Western liberal democracy to say these things, but maybe for the people of Tunisia or for the people of Rwanda, sometimes these are the better options.
Or for the people of Japan, or for the people of South Korea. South Korea, right, at the end of the war, trailed way behind Kenya, in terms of GDP per capita and so on. Of course, it overtook it, and is one of the richest countries. In both those countries, which I visited and had people speak, saying, after the war, nobody questioned. There was no democracy in Japan, but it grew. The people, you'd stand on the railway platform waiting to get home, people would fall over from hunger, but they were growing all the time and working. And the emperor said, education is the answer. I will never refuse a request for an interview with a teacher, things like that. South Korea, the South Korean said it, in the most diplomatic way he could. But if they had not had a very autocratic government for a long, long time, they would never have grown. He said, perhaps, as you just said, perhaps it would be a good thing for some African countries. We were musing. He said, of course, now it is too late. He also mentioned that perhaps if Russia had changed, instead of going sort of from a communist system into a devil take the hindmost after that, Russia would have done a lot better. So the fact that at some point you might need an autocracy, but I do think that boat has sailed for us and for most other African countries. But I wouldn't want to have a Rwandan system. In fact, Gareth, the truth is, the only admirers of Rwanda that I've seen in my country, in South Africa, have been Mlungus who've gone there and said, really? Isn't that place clean? Isn't that place orderly? If there's no litter, that's okay. The fact that the president actually comes to South Africa and kills his opponents or sends his people to do that doesn't seem to matter. There's no litter in the streets. And you can walk around after 9 o'clock at night. How cool.
South exactly, JJ. As long as Cheryl can go for a walk, that's all she wants. I just no litter where I walk. I just got these new shoes. My bubby just sent me the money. He's the best son. He's a dentist.
Well, with your vast salary and expenses, you can probably afford private security. So you're okay too.
No. Well, let's not forget that we've had much stranger bedfellows than Paul Kagame. We had old Omar al-Bashir here for a while. Remember, we couldn't even get him arrested.
And do you remember those dudes during the apartheid days? Some of those very bad, very bad South Americans who used to come over.
I mean, aren't we still on reasonably good terms with Teodoro Obiang Nguema? And his son owned some property in Cape Town, didn't he?
I think so. They've all got money here. I don't know on good terms with him. Teodoro Obiang Nguema, he's now being sought by the French. You know, when the French finally get you as an African for corruption, you haven't had your hands in the cookie jar. You've been bathing in the cookie jar for a decade or so. They've come and taken, they've got, charged him, and Teodoro Obiang Nguema said, okay, that's cool. And he's closing his embassy in France. Well, that'll teach them.
Well, JJ, it's always fascinating to hear from you, and thank you very much for a little bit of a bird's eye view of Tunisia. It's always interesting. What country do you want to focus on next? Because we like these. I mean, these are almost like mini power packed lectures we get on various African countries, and we haven't missed a beat with interest and illumination so far. What would you like to focus on next? Which country are we going to go and visit next?
Well, you name a country and I'll do it. How about that?
Sure. Lebang, you want to go for one? I mean, what are you really interested in?
I'd really like to know more about like Nigeria and like the truth about what happens there. Like really down to the gritty. I mean, there's the political analysis and all that stuff, but like the root stuff that goes down there. I think if we can hop on a plane and go there.
I would be delighted, but my word, one injunction, it will be in a month's time, and I would urge you, Gareth, and you, Mbulelo, to wear your cricket protectors, because some of the punches will be coming in a bit lower than usual.
All right. Thank you very much, JJ Cornish. Good to see you.
All the best.
There we go. JJ Cornish is brought to you on cliffcentral.com by none other than the Joburg Business School. And you can find out more about them by going to cliffcentral.com, and you will see all the links are on a special page that we've created for Africanalysis. You can also catch up on all the other little snapshots we've done of various other countries on the continent. It's part of what we think is necessary because it's this is our home base. This is our continent. And most people know only a little bit about maybe Zim, maybe Mozambique, maybe Botswana, maybe Namibia, maybe Lesotho and Swaziland, and that's about it. You ask them about anything else, the average South African goes, they go, Africa, which is not unlike the Americans who think Africa is one country. So there we are. Always good to hear from JJ, and always good to talk about the things that are going on in current affairs in Africa too. So Tunisia, now hopefully you're able to have a conversation about that with just about anyone. The experts on one hand and the complete novices on another. When we come back, we will continue to be joined by Mbulelo, and we'll continue to be joined by Lebang and you, most importantly. So stick around for that and a whole lot more. And because it is a Tuesday, we're also going to be doing something interesting. You're going to speak to the CEO of BMW South Africa and the Sub-Saharan African region, also the first South African CEO in the group's history on this continent. And we're going to talk to him about all the interesting things that are going on with BMW. And we're going to be doing some stuff with them in the next while, which I think you're going to find very interesting. That is a brand that has got unbelievable clout in Africa and South Africa, not to mention the world. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to get to know a little bit about the business from inside by talking to the guy right at the top. So that's coming up all the way on the other side of 7. cliffcentral.com. Stick around for a whole lot more. Don't go anywhere.
This week on Auto Central, I suppose if you're going to buy a 4x4 for under 40,000 Rand, you need to make sure that it's mechanically sound. If you're just going to go for aesthetically sound, your mechanics is going to catch you out because you're not going to get much. Catch Auto Central, SA's #1 motoring podcast, every Monday at 9 a.m.
Yo, I put it like wow, this that sound. These oaks don't work hard like me, I hope they know by now.
Central.com on a Tuesday morning, and we are live. The 3rd of August already. Things are moving steadily towards the close of the year. Honestly, when August hits, this is something I often say to people who I know, and I've learned it from people who know better than me. Once August hits, your best laid plans are pretty much in the toilet unless you've already started them, because to start things in August is going to be difficult. You know what happens. As it starts warming up, as it starts getting more beautiful, as summer starts to creep up on you, people start thinking about the Christmas decorations, because those go up in about 2 months' time, whether you like it or not. No, it's coming. And then before you know it, it's New Year. And you go, huh? I swear I had a year here somewhere that I could still do things with. Nope, not going to happen. Sorry. So lots of very, very cool stuff with JJ this morning. He was on fire. Lots of people talking about that. And it's always good to have him on. But my God, he knows a lot about Africa and what's been going on here. I mean, he's got the bird's eye view. He's got the historical context that he can throw in there. It's all terrific. We are joined this morning by Mbulelo Tinta. We're joined by Lebang Kgosana and by you. And you can join us every single morning. If you prefer on YouTube, a lot of people like to see. They're obviously not disturbed by what they see. Thank God for that. But you can watch us on YouTube. You laugh, Mbulelo, you laugh, but it's true.
Yeah, no, it's... Sorry, you hit a bit too close to home there. I'm very uncomfortable with what I see in my mirror. So I just wasn't ready for you to say it, yeah. Jeez, this is not a safe space for me anymore.
No, not at all.
Do you want to talk? Do you want to let it out?
Lebang, we got something not so good with your sound. Can you go out and come back in? Yeah, just cancel and then come back, because we'll see if we can sort that out. At least we've got Lebang here to make it a little bit more attractive this morning compared to you and me, Mbulelo. That would she'll hopefully keep people much longer than we would. And I think without even trying, especially when we spent a good 20 minutes this morning talking about like the beauty regimen that so many people in this country go through, how you get your makeup person and your hair person and all of that stuff. We go to a minimum of effort on this show because it's so goddamned early, you know. Yeah. So it's good when we have a rose among the thorns like Lebang. We'll we'll talk in a moment or two to the CEO of BMW, which I'm excited about. I've never met him before or spoken to him before, but we'll find out all about what their plans are going forward. And I think, brands like this are the ones that people are really most interested in. So if we can learn something from him, that'll be terrific. I see lots and lots of very cool comments here about August, the month that builders close down on the 15th of December. That's right.
That's very good.
That's the truth, right? Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, too true. True.
I'm pouring a cup of tea for this morning. By the way, if you haven't liked and subscribed, this is very important. You need to be able to do that on our YouTube channel. You can't just watch. We will not accept that. We need you to like and subscribe. You know why? It's not because I'm trying to be difficult to give you more work. We don't charge you for this show, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not going to pull a guilt trip on you. But the fact is, if you don't like and subscribe, then what happens is the algorithm does not rank us. And so people think we're shit at what we do. And YouTube is just one of the places that we do the show. We, of course, I'd say 90% of our audience is listening on podcasts. And so if we have a crappy YouTube rating, then people think we're a crappy channel. And we can't afford to have that. Otherwise we don't get the advertising and the sponsorship that we need to be able to put the show together for you. So it's essential that you do this, not for me, but for you, if you want the show to carry on. And not only carry on, if you want it to get better. And you want us to keep bringing you the most interesting and the most entertaining and the most inspiring guests. So you know what you have to do. I'm stopping there because I don't want you to feel like I'm pressuring you too much, even though I am.
Yeah,
that's definitely.
And no, I hear you there, and you're dead right. But let's talk about the biggest day in South Africa, easily bigger than Christmas, bigger than whatever other holiday. You know what people are loading up for now. It's less than a month. TikTok. Is Spring Day not the biggest day in South Africa? Like, at least in amongst the youth kind of vibey people, it's the 1st of September. Oh my God, Gareth, that first weekend. That's when people launch summer bodies. That's when people know they're out here. That's like, trust me, that first weekend of like spring, which is 1st of September, Spring Day. And then if it is on that day, boy, oh boy, are people going. So that day is enormous. I think it's the biggest day in SA. I honestly do. We love it.
But hang on. That's at university, sure. Because I remember at university, especially in Pretoria, what they used to do is that Spring Day used to be the day that they would do the rag, the Yule, as they used to call it in Pretoria. And that's where everybody would go crazy, get super, super drunk. They'd have those parades and floats. And I don't even know if they're doing that now during Corona. Is anything like that happening?
I thought that had changed, but there are people in my friendship circle. They're just like, that is a big thing for them. Like, launching a summer body is such a big thing in amongst the people I know now. It's just like the thing to do, right? I don't know if you have any of those types of friends. Like, I'm loading my summer body. No, not your. Okay, well, look out for it.
I don't. Look, maybe I'm the wrong person to ask, but I think that a lot of people who already have great bodies are all talking about summer bodies. The people who have terrible bodies and have not looked after them through the winter don't want to discuss them. They're not talking about summer bodies. So it's a small subsection of a group of people, Mbulelo. It's your kind of friends. It's not everybody's friends.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. No. I think maybe you're jumping the gun here. Just saying.
Okay. Don't say I didn't warn you. Hashtag new summer body, bikini vibe. When it happens on your social media, don't say I didn't warn you. There's a pandemic coming, and for this one, you must be ready.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, so what can you start doing? Come on, give us some tips, because I'm no kind of fitness expert. The other day when I spoke about my routine, both you and Ben kind of looked at me askance, like I didn't know what I was talking about, and that I was embarrassing myself by even trying to talk about it. So what do you do? I mean, you do a lot of cardio, you do running and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the greatest one to do is walk. Like, a lot of people, people want to sprint before they've even crawled. Is just walk. I know I make fun of the walking like yentas out there, but I love it. I love seeing people out there walking. Just walk. Get into a routine. An hour a day. Tell your husband, boyfriend, children, an hour is yours. Take a walk around the block if you're fortunate enough to live somewhere. Walking is Number one. It is better than lifting weights. It is better than if you just get into walking. The rest will follow. If you stop trying to do too much. Start simple.
But okay, so then if you're not morbidly obese and have joint issues, like what is a good distance to start walking until you're tired?
You know what? I think something you don't want to start turning into.
This is very practical. Let's be like totally upfront about this. This is the kind of information people don't talk about because they say, "Oh, go for a walk," but they don't say how far you got to go. And then someone goes for like a 300-meter walk and they think they've done some exercise. That's not going to help you, is it?
What I would stop obsessing on is distance, because that puts you in a little bit of a bind. What I might encourage is get into a routine. If you are currently not where you want to be in health, is focus on half an hour or an hour, wherever you are. So if half an hour is 500 meters for you, let it be that. Rather focus on the time. Don't worry about distance, because then you start to, that's more of a performance indicator rather than just half an hour. Wherever I am, after 15 minutes, I turn around and I walk home. Don't put yourself in a prison where it's got to be a kilometer, because that's a long way, and just build from there.
All right, I'm happy with that. I can do that. I'm going to do. I get very bored with the cardio stuff, man. At least on a walk, you can listen to a podcast, or you can, I can take the dog with me. Then that's something to distract me a little bit. And if you've got nice, beautiful surroundings, which obviously in winter are a major, that's hard to find, then that helps too, right?
That does help, definitely. Which is why I say, if you're fortunate enough to live in a place where you can, do you just walk? That's all I encourage people, because actually, for all of the fun I make of it, is I just love active lifestyle. For me, it's like, I don't need you to be in the Olympics. I wish people, and I probably sound quite preachy, I wish they could get the gift of being your best self, what that does for you and everyone around you, Like it's such a gift to be healthy.
I mean, here's some obvious things. So Eleutheria says summer bodies are made in winter. We've heard that before. Dogos are saying spring day is a vibe, sun's out, guns out. Onhopotse says not anymore. Ever since the new normal, they don't do spring day anymore. The University of Pretoria, according to Hermine, killed spring day even before Corona. Michael's calling it body privilege. That's interesting. It won't be long. Hey, we laugh about that now, but it won't be long before that's an actual term people use. Trust me.
No, it's already here. You're not allowed to be beautiful. People just hate, if you're male or female and good looking, the world hates you right now. You are not loved.
I don't know about that. I think that the world loves you. I wouldn't say hates you. Nonsense.
I think it used to, Gareth. Everything is hashtag privilege, beauty privilege, this privilege. And have you not heard the thing is, especially like for women, if she's good looking, I bet you she's a bitch. That's the first thing I ever hear. Just she must be a bitch. I'm like, come on, man. Like, what now? Like, come on.
Tony says walk as far as you can and are comfortable with, and then the next day extend that by 100 meters and so on. Gentle Inflatables says vacuum your house. That's enough exercise. Well, it depends on the size of your house, obviously, but yes, that's usually quite good. You know what I did the other day, and this is kind of maybe to some people it's boring and stupid, but to me it was fun. I actually dug up and moved a tree, and that is hard work. Not a big tree, just like it's probably about as high as me, but I'm clearing out this one part of the garden which has always just looked like shit. And by clearing it out, I had to move a tree. So I had to actually pick the thing up and put it in a wheelbarrow, push it around and dig another hole and all that kind of shit.
What are we talking about here? How old is this tree? How deep are these roots? Are you a lumberjack now?
Well, I planted it about 2 years after I moved into this house, and I've been here 10 years already. So it was a substantial tree, and that was good exercise. Tell you what, that'll wake you up in the middle of winter. That'll get your blood pumping.
Good for you. Good for you. Because we don't do much manual labor as people anymore. Hey, like if you live in the Kushti sort of middle class burbs.
No. Most people, can you move that bush from here to here, please? Yeah, that kind of thing. That's not good about that. Anyway. So there's still a little bit of hard labor that occasionally takes place. I got to get ready for summer as well in my own way. But yeah, I'm also I've been eating pretty healthy, which I think helps too. You know, I did have pasta yesterday, which is never the best. But occasionally when you indulge in something like that, you also feel a bit better. Like I I did a week about 2-3 weeks ago. I did a week where I didn't do any meat at all. I cut out meat completely. And I felt pretty good about that. I mean, you know, that was certainly healthy, but then I was craving a steak. So the other night I had to eat some meat. It was ridiculous. It just shows you when your body is telling you, I need this stuff, that you probably do need it. I mean, that's, you know, there's no way of denying that. Anyway.
So as you know, obviously I'm a COVID hero, COVID survivor. I don't want to go over it, so that we've already covered that.
No. Just remind the people who missed out on the fact that you had and you survived COVID, and you expect a statue to be erected to you in the center of town. That's what you want.
I didn't want to talk about it, but obviously, you know, when you come through something like COVID, it's not just for yourself. You do it for the millions that are looking to you to lead a nation as the next Xhosa, sort of after Mandela and Siya Kolisi, to lead this nation.
And really, it's just how you see yourself. That's what you do.
And Gareth, at this stage, I don't think it's how I see myself. I think it's how the masses see me, because I am the one to help us cross the proverbial Rubicon. You know, obviously being Xhosa and a leader and a COVID survivor and a hero. But my thing is this.
Oh my God. Yeah.
After I obviously overcame COVID as a hero, was that something I've realized, because I didn't get to exercise as much as I wanted, is it became so evident to me how diet is crucial, because I thought, oh no, it's going to be 6 or 7 weeks of no exercise just to be careful with the lungs, you know? And I have not put on an ounce, and that's not to make people feel bad, but it's because I've got to be honest, my eating habits are phenomenal. You know, I eat. I'm not a wealthy man.
If anybody hasn't already subscribed to Cliff Central Sport, then you've just convinced them by talking about how great you are for a good 5-10 minutes nonstop. That was amazing. I mean, Lebang has only just come back now because she wanted to give you the space to be able to just congratulate yourself on everything that you already had. But there we go. Right, Lebang?
And I just want to say, I just want to say at this stage, heavy is the head that donneth the crown. So it's not as easy as it looks as well. A lot of people are probably saying you make it look so easy. How do you carry yourself with such elegance? It's not as easy as it looks.
Yeah, I mean, you missed nothing but Mbulelo giving himself congratulations for about 10 minutes. That's what he did. So listen, there are a few things we need to talk about this morning, and among those things, lots of people talking about health and about summer bodies and about spring, which is just around the corner. I think that may be premature, by the way, because usually in August there's at least 1 week of just misery where the wind blows and it's freezing and people are desperately unhappy. I say this as someone who's experienced in August because my birthday is there. And I once said to my mother, couldn't you have just, because my birthday is on the 26th of August, right? So if she just held out just a few more days, I could have been in September. And then my life would have been so much better. I would have been a much happier person. I would have felt like I'd earned my place in the sun. You know, September babies are just generally more happy than anything born in August. It's my brother's birthday today, by the way.
Well, so what do you suggest? Just
thank you.
So what are you suggesting for your mom for just to extend it by 5 days there? Just some breathing exercises?
I wasn't there at the time. Cross your legs. I don't know what you have to do.
You really sound like you had a choice in this whole thing. Like, between you and your mom, nobody was allowed to choose what happened at that point. Once you're there, you're there. And knowing you were like, I'm here and I want to get out of here so I can get into the world. I don't imagine your mother's labor was simple. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Listen, you're hardly going to meet a woman who says no. She had her pregnancy and her birth was just wonderful every step of the way. I mean, that would be ridiculous. There's a huge amount of strain, stress, pain, torture, and difficulty that goes with it. That's why men must just shut up and admire what women have to do in order to keep the species flourishing. Let's give credit where it's due.
You've just opened a whole can of worms here, because I got invited to the most ridiculous thing you have ever heard about in your life. You know how people are doing those home births now, or whatever you call them?
No.
No, so I didn't get invited to the birth itself, but there was okay, I don't want to get into my views on religion, but there was a whole thing about coming to bless the like hot water tub or whatever, like a party for that before. Like, and now I'm the bad person for in your wildest dreams. I'm coming to something like that. In your wildest dreams, like I'm happy to be at ridiculous things, not that.
Let me ask
too much.
And Lebang, I know that we're still having issues with your sound, but you got to help me on this one because you're someone from a more objective place than Mbulelo. All right, we've got people who get engaged, so you have to go to an engagement party. Then you've got people who they want you to go to a bachelorette or a bachelor's party, right? Then they want you to go to the wedding, which is cool. All of this so far I have no problems with. Then they have their first kid, and you must go to the name party because that's a thing. Then there's a gender reveal, which is usually the same as the name party, but sometimes people even separate them out. Now Mbulelo's saying now there's also a birth blessing party, and then you have to go for a christening or a baptism. Then you have to go for a first birthday. I mean, this is all getting kind of ridiculous. Are people just in the game of getting free gifts, and this is the way they see that rolling out, so that they can get 6 gifts out of you instead of just 1? Or do you think there's something more nefarious going on?
It sounds like these people that are hosting all these events have a lot of money, because hosting people is expensive. Hosting that many people that consistently is expensive. So there's that. Secondly, I just feel like some people want to celebrate every single milestone so much that they will host every little nitty-gritty thing. And for you, Mbulelo, I completely understand why you'd have no interest in going to someone's house to bless the water that their child will be getting into the world into. But for some people, that's exciting. For some people, it's precious, it's different. I will say, though, that I'm not going to invite every Tom, Dick, and Harry in my phone book to come and bless the water where, maybe like a few close friends. It ultimately depends on how close you are to the couple or the family or whatever the case is. And you can decide whether you want to be present in all of these milestones or not. And ultimately, if you don't really care much for the child that's being born, then make that clear before the child even arrives. Don't rock up, don't be there, just be there from a distance. But you shouldn't be forced to ultimately, constantly be all up in their grill. I wish I had thought of that, because I wanted to actually have a water birth with my last born. But that thing's expensive, bro. It's like 35 grand for just the water, and then the actual blow-up pool is like
$35,000.
Dude, that's entry level home birth. And I was like, I really want to do this because I've pushed 2 out, I cut 1, I'm like, really different for my first. Let me do this in some water, and then I did the research.
All right, listen. I'm Lebang. I'm going to let you go because we're struggling to hear you this morning. And as much as I love having you on, I don't want it to get annoying for people to listen to. But thank you, love you lots, and we'll see you in a couple of days' time. I'm sure there's Lebang Kgosana. But I'd like to bring into the show this morning somebody who I'm really excited to talk to. We're going to speak to Mr. Peter van Binsbergen, who is the CEO of BMW South Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. And I'm excited to talk to him because this is easily one of the most loved brands in the world. And he is the man at the helm of it. He took over in January as CEO, and it's a great pleasure to welcome him to the show this morning. How are you, Peter?
Good morning, Gareth. I'm really well. Thanks very much. And thanks for having me on your show.
It's such a pleasure to meet you. It must feel quite scary in some ways, and also extraordinarily fortunate and inspiring to be in the position you're in as the CEO of a brand that all South Africans across the board absolutely love. BMW, obviously one of the most well-known car brands in the world, and here especially so popular. It must be slightly intimidating to occupy the role of CEO, which you took over in January. How's it been?
So far, it's been great, Gareth. I've been here 7 months in the role, and after 18 years abroad for the BMW Group, I must say it's wonderful to again be able to work in my home country with fellow South Africans. So that's been an awesome 7 months. We've had really great results so far this year. So I think an excellent start, and intimidating, yes, but a great pleasure at the same time.
So, how does it feel to be the first South African CEO for this country in the group's history? Because you said this is your home country, and you know that obviously brings with it all kinds of knowledge that you have and experience that you have of South Africa. But it must be quite groundbreaking for BMW to appoint a homegrown person here.
Yeah, I think that's a bit where the intimidating bit comes in, because when I started my career in the auto industry here in South Africa some 27 years ago, here at BMW South Africa, I never in my wildest dreams imagined that one day I'd be CEO. And so it's a great honor and privilege coming back into this company where it all started as CEO. But at the same time, it's quite a big responsibility, because as you've mentioned, being the first South African in this role, I want to do the home team proud, and home games are the most stressful. So it's a bit stressful in that regard, but I'm in it for the long haul. I've made the commitment to this role on a long-term basis. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm South African, and I'm here to stay for a while. And I'm really excited about the plans that I have together with the team, and I have the time to do it with them. So I'm looking forward to the challenges ahead.
I've met some of your team at BMW South Africa, and you've got some very, very smart and very capable people there. So I'm sure it's not going to be hard to get all of that together. But I've always wondered, if you're the CEO of a brand that has such history and such weight and such gravity to it, and really BMW, as I said earlier, is also a very popular and famous brand in South Africa. Now, how much of yourself can you inject into a role like CEO? I mean, how do you align the vision that you have for the vision of the brand, which is so well established?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the first thing is that I can really use the experience that I've had with this company, because I have the same passion you've mentioned for the brands of the BMW Group as many of our consumers luckily have, and I've been with the company for 27 years. I've had the privilege to work at our head office in Germany, in Munich. I've worked in the German market itself. I've worked in Japan. I've worked in China. So I've managed to experience our brand in its breadth, let's say, and in the many cultures in which we are active. And I can bring that experience back home now to South Africa and couple it with my knowledge of the local situation, the local cultures, and of course the local company and the people within our value chain. So I think bringing these two things together is something that I certainly can add to the role here. And with that, I have short and long-term objectives, of course, already planned out.
So, Peter, the big buzzword at the moment is obviously e-mobility, and everybody's talking about electric cars and the future of mobility and the future of transport in the world. And this is something that BMW have not been slack to come to the party on. In fact, I think if you asked a lot of South Africans which cars they know about, which brands of cars they know about that are electric vehicles, they will probably mention your cars, because we've seen them on the road before. There is already infrastructure in place. It seems like BMW were ahead of the curve in many ways in this respect. And I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here with us now. This is something that occurred long before you were the CEO of BMW South Africa, but it is something which I think BMW could be quite proud of. So give us an overview of where you're at and what the plan is going forward, because this is something we could be really invested in as a country, and something that we could all take huge pride in.
Absolutely. And as part of the transformation of our local industry, that's one thing that we definitely have to embrace. It's electromobility. It's really important for our local production base, and it's important from the perspective of the consumer here. So it's no surprise that BMW is easily recognized, because we've been at it for more than a decade now. Our sub-brand, BMW I, was born more than 10 years ago. And so we already have a good footprint, let's say, in people's minds. And what's coming now, though, I would say, is the products of many years of research and development in electromobility. And we're about to launch 25 electrified models. So that means either a plug-in hybrid or a fully electric, battery electric vehicle by 2023. So that means in the next 3 years, there will be 25 electrified models available from the BMW Group, and many of those will come to South Africa. And you know how our industry works. New products stimulate demand. And so this is an essential part of my growth strategy for BMW South Africa. And so absolutely essential that electromobility finds a footing here in the South African market.
But what do you think our big challenges are? because in adopting e-mobility, obviously there are things that we have to face up to as South Africa. Do we have the necessary infrastructure? Are we able to put into plan the operations and the ideas and the goals that you've set for BMW in a country where very often, we have issues around power generation, we have issues around the way that our road system works. Transport isn't always ideal, and overcoming those obstacles must be a very, very tough part of your job.
Yeah, we certainly aren't there yet, but I think the biggest challenge is building a conducive environment for electromobility here in South Africa. And I've mentioned already that it's both the production side of the story as well as the consumer front. Let's start with the consumer. The most important question any customer asks is, will I be able to charge my electric car? So of paramount importance is a charging infrastructure, a network here in this country. And the second thing we've seen in Europe, where electric cars have taken a really strong footing already, is that government incentives that help bridge the price gap between a cheaper electric or petrol car and an electric car really help get the market going. So these two things are key topics for our market to get the ball rolling. Our job as the manufacturer is to bring attractive, exciting products that make people want to experience electromobility. And I believe with the 25 new products I've just mentioned, we are going to do just that. We're going to offer consumers the opportunity to drive the future today. And I think that really is going to get the ball rolling.
Now, you did mention there are going to be 25 of these products, but I'm curious, I'm sure most people are. This is where it really gets exciting. And it would be remiss of me to say to you, oh, that's great, 25 products, and not to ask you what they are. So let's just talk about the actual electric cars that you plan to launch in South Africa. Some people may already be familiar with some of these, some people may not. But maybe you can give us a little bit of insight into what the models are that will be launched.
Okay, just to recap, coming from BMW i, we already have the i3 fully electric vehicle in this country, a number of plug-in hybrids, and the Mini SE, which is also a fully electric vehicle.
Right.
What's coming now, and I can tell you about 3 of the products. The rest are still a bit secret, so I'll have to keep your listeners waiting for a while longer to hear about all 25. But I'll tell you about 3. And the first one is a really groundbreaking new product. It's called the iX. I'm sure you've heard about it. It's coming to South Africa end of this year already. And that's an SUV about the size of an X5 with a range of about 600 kilometers. So really real world range in a vehicle that can be used for everyday family motoring. And some very modern technology in this vehicle and a very new interesting style for the BMW group. Then we've got something called the iX3. As you can hear by the name, it's a fully electric derivative of the evergreen X3. This product is a nice mid-sized SUV, has a range of about 450 kilometers. I think the ideal family car, mom's taxi, take the kids to school, go shopping, etc. Right. So a wonderful car, I think, for our South African conditions. SUV combined with electromobility. And then comes a personal favorite of mine. It's called the i4. This is a very dynamic and stylish, fully electric derivative of the 4 Series Grand Coupe. So this is the 4 Series, which normally is our coupe variant, but it's a 4-door variant. So we call it a Grand Coupe. This vehicle has 500 kilometers range, and in the top variant, an acceleration from 0 to 100 of 3.9 seconds. That's M territory. Wow. So this is a combination of a family car and sports car in one, and it's electric. So really exciting, and it's a car I think people really are going to want to drive.
Fantastic. You'll have to keep updating us on the rest of that list of 25 because that's very ambitious, and I'm sure that you're going to deliver on all of them. But people want to know, Definitely. So it's not going to be long before they're knocking on your door asking for the next ones. Sounds amazing.
We hope so.
How is BMW? Because you guys, like a lot of the big motor manufacturers, you're very well connected, and I'm sure that you're working with government to try and help adopt e-mobility in Africa and in South Africa. And if you have them on your side, it helps. And I think, there are many people in government who understand that this is inevitable. It's the way things are going. It's the way that if we want to be a country that competes with the rest of the world, we need to have an infrastructure that makes it possible for you to bring those amazing cars that you've just mentioned into South Africa. So how are you working with government, and what kind of things are you doing together?
Well, we're working very closely with both government and industry, so NAMSA. And it's been extremely productive. We've had a number of meetings where we've sketched out what is really important. How do we overcome these hurdles? How do we make this conducive environment for electromobility? Of course, the topics of charging infrastructure have been on the agenda, incentives to allure consumers into that step, but also how do we bridge the gap from the current production framework, which the entire supplier network here is really focused on internal combustion engines, to get our production network also future-proofed into electromobility. And all these topics have resulted in a green paper on electromobility published by the DTIC. And I think they've taken all of our input into that. And what's really important now, I think, is that we get some decisions, that the green paper becomes a white paper, and that we get on with it, because the clock is ticking and then time is running. But it's been really great cooperation. And I think the most important fact is that government and industry have the same view on what we need to future-proof our industry here in South Africa.
I think that sounds terrific. One last thing, just some words of motivation. We've been through a pretty tough time, thanks to coronavirus, and I know that for you guys in the vehicle and motor industry, it's also been a tough time, because a lot of the plants haven't been operating at the kind of rate that they might have before. Suppliers may have had to shut down in various parts of the world. You guys have such an incredible network, and everything is so carefully timed, and everything's so carefully ordered in advance and manufactured perfectly in time. And, you know, there's a huge amount of German efficiency that's going on here too, I'm sure. But I want to know from you, because you're the only person in the position who can actually say these things. What motivation can you give to alleviate people's skepticism, not only around e-mobility, but also in terms of the general state out there for vehicle sales and for everything else, to just make people feel a bit better, and to think about e-mobility as not just something in the future, but something which they can do now?
Yeah. Well, I think the skepticism you refer to is obviously there. And I think it's because many people have not actually experienced an electric car. And my motivation to everybody would be to go out there and have that experience, because once you've test driven such a car, you can appreciate the quietness, the smooth drivetrain, the absolute ease of driving. You can literally drive with one foot and allow electric motor to do the braking for you. And you can find out how easy it is to charge these cars, and actually how well the range fits to your daily needs. So I think electromobility is something to look forward to, and not to fear or to think it's a fad for only the early adopters. And I feel we've reached many early adopters already, and that's partially due to our products. I mean, the i3 is a bit of a polarizing car, but I think the products we're about to launch on the market now, in terms of variants, I've just mentioned 3 to you, in terms of their style and design, and their range, are really those products that will appeal to a much broader customer group. So my motivation would be, go out there, book a test drive, experience one of these cars, take it home, see how easy it is to use. And I think you'll all be motivated that driving the future today is really exciting. And generally, you talked about motivation. I think our market is much more resilient than many people believe it is. I mean, we've had a torrid month in July. We all know what happened. Yeah. And nonetheless, actually, the results of July were respectable. And I think our segment has potential. I believe the car market here has potential. I believe the manufacturers of this country are all doing their best to offer the customers the best products suiting South African conditions. And it's up to us to work together now to bring South Africa back to a level of success that we've known in the past. And we all need to work on that together.
Well, listen, I know how busy you must be, so I'm really appreciative of the fact that you could spend some time with us this morning. You're in charge of a brand in this country, which, again, it's worth stating this over and over again. Some kids grow up just dreaming of one day being a BMW driver. You have a brand that is extraordinarily popular and that has deep roots in South Africa. The fact that you're our homegrown CEO is just terrific, and I wish you the best of luck. I mean, you've come in a really exciting time as CEO, and there's going to be much to discuss over the next couple of months. I'm also delighted that we got to hear it straight from you. A lot of these things we might read in the press, sometimes you miss them, sometimes you don't. To actually have a conversation with you this morning was a great privilege. Thank you, Peter.
Thanks very much for having me, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Peter van Binsbergen, who is the CEO of BMW in South Africa. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Terrific
Thanks.
stuff. Good to see you. Isn't that cool? I think that's really cool. I'm a huge fan of BMW too. I've driven one for some time. I'm not driving one at the moment, but I love the brand, and I know loads of people in this country consider it the premium car brand. And with all this electric mobility happening, I think a lot of people are very excited about what's on the menu for BMW. So we'll be exploring that in the next few months too, and I think it's going to be very exciting. Stick around for more of those. We'd like to hear from you this morning. Another wonderful South African. Thank you, Gareth, says Michael. Yeah, well, I'm not going to take credit for him. He certainly seems to be someone who knows what's going on. He's talking like we can all afford or drive this car. Well, it's called Aspirational Akholile. And what can I do? I'm not going to be able to give you the money to buy your BMW, but we all have dreams, right? We all have dreams.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Then there are questions from Tony, which I didn't get to ask Peter, like maximum torque available instantly, or is that just a comment rather than a question?
No. What he's saying is, so have you driven an electric car before, Gareth?
Yeah, I've driven the i3. It's very cool.
Yeah. So some mensch let me drive his Tesla in Sweden, and as you put your foot down, you get maximum power. It's like, so it's not like a petrol. I think what he's saying there is, it's not like your regular diesel or petrol car where you got to work your way through the gears. As you put your foot down, boy, does this thing go. Jeez, this thing scared me. Hey.
Well, he was saying for the that i4 that they're bringing out, that's got an incredible 0 to 100. I think he said in under 4 seconds. I can't remember
3.9 seconds. 3.9 seconds. He said, yeah.
There we go. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing. That's really cool. I'm sorry that we had to let Lebang go, but her sound was just, we weren't even able to hear her at the end. But she was talking about how expensive a home birth in one of those water births, I think it's what it's called, how expensive that is. There is a category of stuff I've never considered the expense of. I can honestly tell you now that took my breath away. I've never thought about whether or not that would be expensive, and I'm horrified at the fact that people have to pay 35,000 Rand, she said, entry level to do a home water birth. I mean, really, it's amazing to me that, there is business in everything. And I congratulate the people who do this for a living and who make it possible for people to do this at home, and to do it with, obviously, there's a lot to think about, and you have to make sure it's safe, and you have to make sure that it's all kosher and it's all healthy and all that stuff. So there's obviously huge work that goes into it. But man, 35 grand entry level. There's some stuff you just don't consider during your day when it comes to costs. I mean, we started this morning talking about what an eyebrow microblading costs. Another thing that I've never considered the cost of before. Joe.
Yeah, life's real out here. And the person I told you invited me, like she is just, I think Lebang was heading there because it's a lifestyle to do this stuff now, and she's done well, her husband's done well, so yeah, they can afford it. But she also knows she is a ridiculous person. We all have friends who I think they know they're ridiculous, we know they're ridiculous, but they're great people. But she knows I will turn her down for about 90% of the things because her and her friends are just too much for me. So, like, when she sent this, I just thought to myself, bless the water.
No,
So,
sorry.
Good luck to all of them. Good luck to the home water birth people.
Mbulelo, just because you put the fear of God into me that the Olympics are ending sooner than we think. So we've only got a little bit of this to still enjoy. And maybe you can give us some highlights of what's coming up in the Olympics. You also want to talk a little bit on the MKT Cliff Central Sports Show a little bit later on about rugby and about Formula One. But let's just start with the Olympics, because I think a lot of people are very excited about what's going on there. And certainly I'm one of those people, despite the fact that I know nothing about the Olympics. It's fun to watch. I even played you a clip this morning of a weightlifter. That's how into it I am. Can you tell?
Yeah, I can. And it moves me. It's a very rarely am I moved, but to see one so passionate is, quite something to be a part of. So let's do as they say, eat the frog first. It was said eat a frog every morning because it means your day can only get better from there. Golden Boy Wade van Niekerk didn't even make the final of his event. So that was Depressionville for South Africa yesterday. So no good. But I mean, there's still plenty to come. I mean, the track stuff's really taking off. The golden stuff, 100 meter, we didn't do well, but 1500 is still left. So the track stuff is awesome. And the human gorillas are starting to come out now because the discus guys have done their thing. The javelin and the hammer throw guys are about to get out. And those are the people that look like human houses, just houses with legs. So that's an awesome thing to watch. And then for me, the marathon is the golden event. So you still got that to look forward to, because that is just superhumans. And we've got a serious chance in the ladies. We've got a woman right now who I think is overall the best sort of marathon and ultra marathon runner in the world, in Hairdresser, but she's proper, like a proper stud. And we have a real chance to get a gold there. So I'm really looking forward to Saturday. So catch that on Saturday morning if you're a South African. We're used to waking up for the comrade. So get behind Hairdresser. I'm super excited about her.
No, that sounds good. The marathon, obviously, is not much an excitement to watch, except for the last, couple of seconds. Or am I being stupid here? I mean, obviously, it's an endurance thing, and it's an ancient event that was probably at the start of the Olympics. This was like the launch event. This was the most important event in the Olympics. But these days, I don't know whether it has the excitement of the 100 meters, or there's always this thing that I remember someone telling me about that I look for, the Victor Ludorum, right? And apparently the person who is considered the athlete, the male and female athlete of the Olympics, they're the overall winners, if there is such a thing, are the people who do the decathlon, right? They're the ones who win the Victor Ludorum or the Victrix Ludorum.
They are special. I mean, that is a very rare human being. I mean, that's still coming up. The decathlon puts you in rarefied air, and they are the golden, so sort of the 1500 and those guys, the decathletes, are absolutely sensational. But just want to explain something about the marathon. People may be used to just hearing all these ridiculous times and whatever. Is the Olympics are actually a pretty unique way to run the marathon. It's not like your regular marathons, because your Berlin Marathon, New York Marathon, those squads in Europe are massive. So they'll have Kenyans, Ugandans, and whatever. And it's far more tactical when it's the big money races, because what they do is they protect the number one runner. What you do is send out some runners to kind of stretch the legs of other guys. It's very tactical in the major marathons that we know of, Boston, whatever. In the Olympics, it's often the times are about 4 or 5 minutes slower than your sort of regular ones. Number one, because they don't make the track so flat. So like Berlin, the reason the world record generally falls in Berlin is it's probably the flattest marathon with the least elevation in the world. But in the Olympics, it's a solo race. So you'll often get some random you've never heard of beating a Kipchoge or beating these big names, because in the Olympics, you race for your country and you race for yourself. You don't race as a pack, because marathon running, Gareth, think of it as Formula One. It is one of the most tactical sports you could ever imagine, but you need to be a bit of an aficionado, because you got to have 2 hours to kind of watch and see what they're doing.
You're saying that because obviously they have to time their energy and release the energy in the right way. And if you go too fast, or you expend too much energy in the beginning, you're going to have none left for the end. You almost have to figure out a consistency. It's like you have to have mastery over your body and your body clock in a way that most people don't.
And even more so for the Olympics. So if you've seen cycling, there's something called a slipstream, or in Formula One, right? In the big races, when you run as a squad, right? So Kipchoge will have his squad, is that every now and then you allow your number one runner to rest. So what you'll do is you tuck in front of him and you give him 3 or 4 kilometers off as he's maintaining his cadence. In the Olympics, there is no protection. It is every man and woman for themselves. So in that, it's actually, yes, the skill matters, but the Olympics is about chutzpah, because you're going to have to go, and it's all you and your own, and there is no kushti, we're going to protect you as the number one runner. So it is a brutal way to do it. And it's an awesome thing. It's the right way to end it off. I'm a bit of a running nerd, so for me, it's the greatest way to end off the Olympics.
I hadn't considered the idea of the slipstream. I mean, you often see it with birds when they fly in a V shape, for example. And what they do then is they take advantage of the slipstream created by the bird in front of them. And obviously in running, that's a thing. But how much of an advantage can it possibly give you? I mean, if you're in a squad during one of these other marathons, not the Olympics, does it help?
Oh God, it is massive, because what you must remember that your squad can do in running, there's something called the boxing somebody in. So let's say our number one guy is struggling or whatever, and the guy from the other team. This is only in Berlin and whatever. Remember, this isn't for Olympics. I'm talking about those big money races where guys are running for teams, not for their country. You can get your squad. Yeah, you get your squad to box another guy in. So then he's not running his normal cadence because he's got 3 or 4 people around him and they're kind of bunching him in. And you'll see it often if you watch marathons, Berlin Marathon or whatever. They'll box the other guy in. It's giving our guy a chance to rest because he may not be in the right sort of form. This is early on, from about 22, 23 Ks. Then in normal racing, they just break away. But it is a massive difference, Gareth. I mean, even if you train with your friends, when people run together, that's a way to train as well. Is you let somebody take the lead, take the headwind, and then you slip behind if you need a rest, and you swap. It's like cycling. I'm sure you've seen the cycling guys how they swap and they move around. Is you giving the main guy a rest? It makes a huge running into the wind.
I know for people who listen to the show regularly, this is not something that happens often, but the Olympics don't happen often, and we had a delay. We're actually 5 years since our last Olympics. So, they keep calling this, by the way, it's very confusing the way they refer to it as Tokyo 2020, because, we're not there anymore. It's 2020 was last year.
The Land of the Rising Sun said we spent $5 billion on the marketing for 2020. We are not spending another cent, thank you. We've got Toyota, yeah.
So Richard Haupt says, did you see the discus that took place in the heavy-ass rain? Pretty dangerous stuff. Almost exciting. Now, the discus, the hammer, the javelin, and the shot put, those are all the ones where you throw something heavy or long, or, the hammer is probably the most dramatic of them all, because, my God, that thing can go. If that goes into the crowd by mistake, I know they've got nets behind them and all that stuff, but can you imagine the damage that would do? So which of those do you reckon is the most interesting? Because I'm only going to make time for one. Discus, hammer, javelin, or shot put?
Discus done a 1-2 for Sweden there. So an awesome result for them. But yesterday I did see some of the discus. I think was it ladies or whatever. But it was so irresponsible. It was pouring. And you're talking about people that are 120 kilograms rotating at like a helicopter. Yeah. That's like an ACL or an ankle waiting to go. I have no idea why they didn't stop it. No, I was cringing watching it. We were actually watching it here at the office with some of the crew. And I said, stop this. This is like you're begging for. So eventually they kind of stopped it. Because listen, those accidents happen, by the way, still today, is where some of the judges aren't watching a hammer or something and it slips out of the contestant's hands. It has happened. Bang, smash on the head. It's going to happen.
That thing will kill you. I mean, if that lands on you, you're dead. There's, if it hits you right between the eyes, you're finished. There's no way you'll get up from that.
Have you ever held? Speaking of which, have you ever held an Olympic-size shot put? By the way,
yeah, you can barely pick the thing up, and you think about someone who pushes it a couple of meters in front of them. It's unbelievable. But I want to ask you just one last thing, because again, if I don't get these questions in now, I'm never going to do them. The decathlon, what are the 10 events? Because again, you have to be such an incredibly talented athlete to get all of these right. You have to be able to do things like pole vault, which looks so technically complicated to do. To be able to, first of all, I can't ever believe that those poles don't break every time that someone does a pole vault. It always looks like it's going to snap. And then these amazing people, they manage to push themselves all the way up, and then they go over that bar, and it's a very complicated maneuver to be able to get right. So pole vault alone seems to me to be one of the most difficult things you can do. Then they do some of the running events too. Then they do high jump. I think they do long jump. I think they do triple jump. What are the actual events in a decathlon? Can you help me?
Geez, you actually did put me on the spot there, but I have got it here. It is 100 meters, long jump, shot put, high jump, 400 meters. And then on the second day, they do 110-meter hurdles, pole vault, javelin, and probably the hardest event. I mean, 800-meter runners will forgive me. Probably the hardest event on the track is the 1500, right? It's kind of 2.5 laps or 3 laps there. So, the range to go from doing 100-meter sub-11 run, which some of them will do, like sub-11's insane. You're a spring. That's not fine. You're a human Tesla.
This is why the decathlon is the toughest event, and the person who wins that is the overall winner of the Olympics. It's something I only discovered about 6 or 7 years ago, and it is for me the most interesting thing now to know that those people are absolutely the best athletes at the Olympics. So I'm going to be watching all of that stuff. When does that happen?
I think that is 2 days away. I'll have a look, and I'll make sure to give a proper report on that. Now that I know that that's in your interest field. But speaking of that, tomorrow we will have former 1500-meter record holder and Olympic silver medalist Johan Cronje on the show. So we'll on the MKT show, and we'll catalog some of this stuff and talk about the Olympics and talk to somebody who was at the Olympics and has a medal. So that'll be awesome to have him on. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all we got time for this morning, but there is